are some of the craziest things you've seen people get upset about in DD video games, board games, etc. Story 1. DDDM's girlfriend couldn't burn a town to the ground when a commoner slammed a door in her character's face. The rest of the party countered all of her attempts to burn that mofo down. She was used to getting what she wanted and being the center of attention, but when she whined to her DM boyfriend that we weren't letting her have her way, he just shrugged. Burning the town down for petty spite would have derailed the campaign, and we stopped the fire by using the rules appropriately. She then moved on to covertly attempting to assassinate players who had worked against her, which also didn't work. That group didn't last long, but we did have a bit of fun constantly trying to shut the DM's girlfriend down. Story 2. I once had someone knock all the pieces off the table and toss the Monopoly board off the table because someone took all the small houses and just stockpiled them without upgrading to hotels, so we would run out and no one could upgrade their own property. Story 3. When 5th edition came out, I was still pretty inexperienced at D&D, but whatever, we had a gathering to play a one-off tutorial campaign with pre-made characters. I decided to be the healer, who also had some damage spells. Anyways, in the first encounter, I used a 3x3 cube attack on an area to kill the 4 remaining monsters, forgetting that the spell would also hit my allies in the area. 2 of them. One saved, the other didn't, but both lived. Me crap, sorry, I forgot. Oh well, I can heal you, angry dude. Out of character. No, you're a piece of me and sorry, it was an accident. Angry dude, heal me. You me'll heal you when you calm down. Is just a game. Angry dude, I'm attacking him. He attacks, he hits. Heal me now. Me, well, I'm definitely not healing you now. Angry dude, I attack him again. He crits. I'm at 0 horsepower. Me, looking at the other players, you guys are just gonna let him kill the healer. The party tries to stop him but rolls horribly, so he delivers the killing. Alright then, I leave to my room, got to play 5th edition for about 10 minutes, Texas Hold'em at a casino, got Delta KA and the dealer is to my left, so I bet last. King Ace Ace come out on the flop. I flopped a full house, all but one guy fold. The next card is a jack, other guy raises, I call. An ace comes on the river giving me 4 aces. He raises and I re-raise the max bet. He calls and slaps 2 kings on the table exclaiming kings full, grinning ear to ear. I show my cards and his grin melts away and he's pissed. He gets up, paces back and forth a few times and then kicked his chair yelling. Then security escorted him out while I counted my winnings. It was a 24 max table. I think he lost like 30. Story 4. My 2 older brothers around 13 to 16 then and I were playing a Mario Party. Oldest brother got so mad that my other brother was winning that he screamed, threw the controller, then ran downstairs. He then booted up the PC and our shared WoW account and threatened to delete my brother's max level 60 main. When the younger brother came to stop him, he pulled up scissors and threatened to stab him. No stabbings occurred and no characters ended up being deleted after some calming down, thankfully, and that's the last time we played Mario Party with my oldest brother. Worst of it, he wasn't even in last place, I was behind the AI. Story 5. My friends and I have absolutely freaked out playing Mario Baseball on GameCube. That game is harder than most things we've played as a group. The NPCs know when you start winning and beat the out of you when it happens. Story 6. Had a friend in high school stop talking to me over video games. After a week I thought, man, he's committed to this bit, but now it's been 13 years, so I think this is a real thing. Story 7. I used to play Pokemon TCG competitively. When I first started playing and I was at my first regional tournament, this player, he was 14-15, I must have been about 1011, was shouting in tears over the fact he thought in his opinion that his opponent had cheated. He was going crazy, screaming and crying and saying this player should be DQ'd, etc. Turns out what happened was at a clutch point in the game his opponent was shuffling his own hand around, basically flicking the cards between themselves. It's a great way to funnel your nerves and a nice repetitive motion to channel energy into, and the player felt that he was doing that deliberately to distract him. I can assure you he wasn't. Players do this as habit for the reason I said above. As a result of being distracted, the player made a game-costing misplay. I've seen people get more angry and crazy at the game before, but not to anything as trivial as this. People get mad over luck, themselves and actual cheating all the time, but this one always stands out to me as just over the top completely. Story 8. My friend broke my controller when I tapped him out on the UFC game. We had similar experience with the game and he said that submissions were cheating, then refused to give me the 60 for a new one. Story 9. I had a player's girlfriend, who had quit the game, get really upset that the other players weren't doing it right. We were having fun, the DM hadn't said anything, we weren't having difficulty requiring bailout, we just were RPing in ways she didn't approve of. My team mom paladin who worshipped her goddess through cooking food, connected to her backstory and DM approved, for example, should just focus on smiting things instead of comforting other characters after trauma by making them soup. Guess what, Kimmy? I got bonus EXP for that soup RP. Story 10. Dungeon Master got angry that I wanted my bear, Sayer Oso. I was a ranger to speak a mystical fake language Spanish but nobody would understand him. He said no, the group protested. It devolved into a huge fight and he broke up the party. Sayer Oso, T extro. Story 11. My local game store was running an open game of MERP Middle-earth roleplay. We're all running through some pretty traditional scenarios, it being Tolkien and all giant rats, bats, etc. At low levels especially, these things can be dangerous, and the GM is doing a great job of setting the scene for us. Well, one guy is just snarking the entire time about how boring and generic the game is, getting on everyone's nerves at this point. Well, a decent way into the game, he decides to just start attacking the other players in the middle of a fight. We're all reasonably calling him on it. He just keeps attacking until we have no choice but to counter and kill his character. He just gets up, thanks us for letting him out, tells us to enjoy our stock fantasy garbage, and leaves the store. What a... Story 12. Probably when I got hate messages on Xbox Live after winning a few online races in Forza. Nothing unusual so far. There are plenty of idiots like that in online games. Except that this guy messaged me from multiple different accounts to call me so sad XD several times, which I just found hilariously ironic. Story 13. My ex was an avid player of WH40K, the tabletop one, and some other miniature-based strategies as well. In his community there was this dude who, upon rolling the dice poorly, losing many units or simply being overpowered, would either shout profanities at the top of his lungs, throw stuff, or simply pack his minis and leave. So there. Story 14. I know this isn't what you're looking for, but I never get the chance to tell this story. When I was in college, we was the newest, coolest thing. I was a poor college student, so I saved for weeks and was finally able to buy one. When I went home for the summer, I brought it with me, and the first night back, I took it over to my sister's house. My sister, her boyfriend now husband, and I decided to play Wii bowling. I only had 2 controllers, so my future Bill and I decided to share one. After his first round, he said squirrel, heads up, and tossed the controller to me. I didn't react in time and I watched the controller fall straight into my glass of wine. The way it fell in was so perfect, it didn't even splash, it didn't even hit the sides of the glass, it was just splush, and was sticking out of my glass like a fat straw. It was the most perfect, hilarious thing I have ever seen. If we had videotaped it, it would have looked staged. It was that perfect of a throw. I could not stop laughing. But Bill was so upset, he was freaking out and kept insisting he would buy me a new one. I told him it was fine and we could just clean it off. We did that and it worked perfectly. The wine stained the cord purple though, so I always knew which controller fell in the wine. To this day, I still affectionately refer to it as Bill's name's controller. Story 15. It was me, I was the one that lost it. In retrospect it was a bit over the top. It was in a game of Risk. I was sweeping through Asia, leaving behind 1 or 2 in each country as I made my way to Africa. I got all of Asia, and I had the majority of my forces in the Middle East, and I was going to move into Egypt, but I wanted to wait 1 turn, gather a bigger force. I was about to end my turn when the guy in Egypt proposed a 1-turn truce. He said that if I didn't attack him for 1 turn he would return the favor, and that would allow me to cover my borders with a more even spread. I agreed. We shook hands and I spread my forces out. It was then his turn. To my utter shock he gathered everyone he had into Egypt and proceeded to wreck all of my forces in Asia and took me out. That broke his word. I will never trust him again. He said that he regularly does this kind of thing knowing that he can only do it once, per group of people he plays with. I lost my cool, and man's word is his bond. You know what, that wasn't crazy to be upset. He broke a sacred pact, the handshake, the verbal contract with witnesses. Never again, and that is why I have trust issues. Story 16. I gamed with him for years, and anytime things didn't go his way in a tabletop RPG he'd throw a tantrum. Picture a middle-aged man who would scream, throw dice, and sometimes stomp away for things like he rolled poorly. He forgot his character had an ability that would have been useful in the previous round of combat. Someone tried to be helpful and remind him of one of his character's abilities he forgot about. People tried to split treasure equally, rather than just giving him everything he wanted. Hey race the thing 2 weeks ago I encountered this guy, for only the 2nd time in a year. During the course of our meeting a hit-and-run driver crashed into his parked car, doing a fair amount of damage to it, is totally chill about this, and didn't even want to call the police, despite a witness saying they thought the driver was drunk. TL dear, I know a guy who will flip out like he's going to kill you when he rolls dice poorly, yet is totally zen when someone smashes up his car. Back in the old days when the Dragon Age series consisted of Origins and Awakening, there was a player named Hart who would post these long rants on the BioWare forum about the character Alistair. Spoilers for a 9-year-old game, but if you make Alistair the king of Ferelden and are in a relationship with him, he breaks up with you unless you convince him to keep you as a mistress or force him into marriage. He's not being selfish, you're both Grey Wardens, and as king, he needs to produce an heir. That's hard for 1 warden and impossible for 2, as you're mostly sterile. Hart was either mentally ill or an extremely good troll, because she would post thread after thread ranting about how Alistair betrayed her, how this wasn't fair, how she was going to make sure he dies, etc. No attempt to explain Alistair's reasoning would get through to her. After a while, people just started ignoring her and she vanished. You can read one of her rants here by opening the folder king. I haven't had too many other bad experiences with games. Most people would probably describe me as the who takes games too seriously. But I did once get an angry message on Xbox once after I beat another player in Magic the Gathering 2012 or 2011. I forget, they were using a blue illusion deck and I was using a red goblins deck. They said something to the effect of way to go, winning with the best deck in the game, you hacks. In truth, red goblins was just decent against that particular deck because it was fast and relied on cheap spells. Everyone seems to get crazy upset if they are hit by the blue shell in Mario Kart, but it's just part of the game. Story 17. I'm a bit hazy on the details, but I'll give it a go. Had a friend who back in middle school got into a heated Minecraft argument with his friend. Due to this his friend burned up his statue of SpongeNob SquareNuts in retaliation. As a result of that my friend completely severed ties with this dude. My friend unfriended him on Xbox, and as retaliation his friend came over to his house and unfriended everyone on his account. I know this is the most hilariously over the top, friendship was pretty much done there. He didn't talk to him until one day we invited him to our Discord years later after we were all out of high school for a Civ game. At that point my friend forgot why he stopped talking to him. Story 18. My wife and I had a poker tourney at our place with about 15 people. After 4 hours only my wife and I were left standing. I had a lot more chips than her. All the guests left for the night. I start to clean up, but she begins demanding that we finish. I try to explain it's our money so it doesn't matter, but she won't have it and is visibly upset. I immediately went all in on the next 2 bad hands and basically handed her the money so I could go to bed. We divorced a few years later. Story 19. Spoons. My grandma is the sweetest thing in this world. She's Mormon, will never hurt anybody, and always sees the good in anyone. But God, she is the most savage person alive when she plays spoons. We were each grabbing for a spoon and we both grabbed the spoon at the same time and she just dug her nails into my hand till I let go. She then looked at me with an innocent smile and said, "Sorry honey, you'll never forget that." Story 20. One of my ex-friends told me he wished my suicide attempt was successful after his character got killed off in DD and I failed to resurrect him, as an ice mage, with no healing spells whatsoever. Story 21. This guy doxed me after a Rocket League game and I said I would post our convo on our Funyensad. To which he started looking through my social media and then said I only go to Reddit parties and I asked him if he wanted to come to a concert I was attending with my friends that night. No response. Editwords Mobile. Story 22. I had someone throw a passive-aggressive fit in my house while playing Super Smash 4 because the Wii U had the yellow-white-red cables, but no HDMI cord. Story 23. I was at a Pokemon Go raid and this dude, grown man with a wife and kids, says I am done with Team Instinct. Seriously, do you see what they did earlier today? Unacceptable. I don't know what our team did to him, but to be done with roughly 13 of the players in this game because of something a few people did is pretty absurd. Also, it's a game. Also, I want to clarify I'm not judging him for playing Pokemon as an adult. I'm judging him for getting so butthurt over something like this as an adult. Story 24. Not particularly upset, but a friend of mine owned a really good spot on Monopoly, and he would not sell for any amount of money, not until an offer of 21 $1 bills. Story 25. When you go to shop in a comic book store while they are playing, they get when they have to deal with a customer. I've had this happen a few times at a local place where the owner would show out to his buddies because he had a patron wanting to pay money for goods. I now shop online for my comics. Story 26. I used to play Risk with a bunch of friends. I was the only female. One guy hated it when I won a few times to the point where he declared that no woman should take over the world, and he spent every game going forward taking me out even when it meant a loss for him as well. Story 27. My friend and I used to play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube after classes at uni occasionally. If we ever played the Metal Harbor stage and he wasn't the first one to light dash the first trail of Ring's head reset the race, every time. Story 28. This guy in an online chat whined and bitched out another guy in a Discord conversation. He had been losing game after game in Smash Bros. Brawl, and he claimed that he was ganged up on by the other players. Not true, but in reality he was just a terrible player. But what really got me the most was the winner was also the admin of that page and abused his admin privileges to change the other player's username to NIR. Story 29. DM for Pathfinder here. Made up my own world and story. Basics of my story is I'm trying to make it a lot about the story and sneak-based. A guy got pissed because he kept running into battle yelling. He actually says he's yelling, and I said that the enemies were no longer flat-footed. I know how the rules are read. But him saying if someone comes at you yelling, you're prepared for battle, and he got so mad that he left in the middle of a session. Story 30. In Perfect Dark, when we used to play split-screen multiplayer, one person would get the Farsight XR-20, an alien gun that can see and shoot through walls, and it was pretty much an unwritten rule that everybody had to team up and murder them before they could start reaming everybody with it because it was so OP. Naturally, this meant that every time a person got the Farsight, get excited to cream everybody, then get triple-teamed and rage about it. The crazy part is that this would happen literally every single time to everybody, even though we all realized how stupid it was. Story 31. Once had a player get mad enough at me to leave a game because I was making things up. I was the DM. Literally my only job is to make things up. Mind you, this wasn't me making up rules or being tricky, legit. Dude got ragey because I said a wall had been constructed of magical brick that could reconstruct itself when damaged. Story 32. My brother was trying out Skyrim and he got upset that he couldn't buy the home in Whiterun at level 2 with 200 gold. All without killing the dragon. I explained it to him many times, but he rage quit the game and never touched it again. Story 33. Playing Uno. Yes, the card game online on Xbox 360. I had custom rules set up for the non-ranked game, which allowed you to counter a draw 4 with another draw 4, forcing the next player to either draw 8 or play a draw 4 if they had one. This resulted in some kid being forced to draw 12 cards. He screamed into his mic, called us all the N-word, and quit the game. His voice sounded like he was maybe 10 years old. Again, we were playing a card game online. Story 34. Be me. Play Overwatch. Be Reinhardt main. Enter competitive match. Pick Reinhardt. Get asked to switch so somebody else can play Reinhardt. Say no. Start getting bitched at. Carry team W25E1D 15,000 damage blocked. Get play of the game with 4-man shatter charge off Eichenwald bridge sacrificial for the kills. Orisa can keep it moving. get bitched at because got play. Story 35. I was on Madden 15 playing my first ever online game, and some weird British dude was my opponent and was talking over Xbox Live despite me not having a headset. It was only the first drive, but I hit Greg Jennings for a 50-yard touchdown and he paused the game, swore at me for 2 minutes with his British accent, and rage quit 1 minute into the game. Story 36. All those folk that got really salty because in a role-playing strategy game, in a fictional society set 1,000 years in the future, you can choose to be addressed as something other than him or Cher. Edit yes, it's Battletech. Story 37. This is easy. Was playing at my sister's boyfriend's D&D group. I was one of the new people with one more person. We'll call him Donald, not real name. Donald played D&D like a spurg, always dove in, just a DM nightmare. You know the types. He was a good role player, but got into it way too much. We were having a good time clearing a dungeon, but Donald was a little low, around 15 horsepower out of his massive 150-ish HP. He had no death saving left, so we warned him to not go ahead of us. You know what happens. The one time we don't check for traps ahead of time, he stepped forward one step and fell into an endless void that wasn't visible unless you checked for it. Hit the fan. When he processed that he died, he immediately flipped the table. Dice going everywhere, pizza on the walls, and the play area that later heard he spent 3 weeks setting up the DM has worked on was completely destroyed. It had pizza and stuff all over it, and the play area was made of the really nice 3D D&D stuff and it was ruined. He got kicked out, and I never saw him ever again. I went to 2 more sessions before college started for them. I think he had autism or Tourette's. I'm uninformed. He was ignoring all social norms is why I think that I feel bad for Donald, but he upped my nice dice and folder, so him edit I typed stop instead of 2, maybe him the spurg. This story is equally embarrassing for both me and my friend, and it's a bit long but here goes. We're playing Minecraft. There are about 5 of us all on a server together. We built a little town and then struck out to carve our own underwater lairs, or floating castles, or fiery volcanoes, or whatever. I had laid like 1,000 tracks and put my home way out in the ocean somewhere on this tiny island, only reachable by minecart. Anyway, I had just discovered the flint steel item, which when activated will light a block on fire. The fire mechanics in the game meant that it would spread to adjacent flammable blocks, like or leaves, but then if there were no flammable blocks then the flames would go out. I thought, wow, this is so cool, I'd better show my friend. I traveled by minecart all the way over to my friend's castle, and I told him about this cool item that I had discovered. He was a bit distracted building something, but he told me not to burn any of the trees nearby. I asked if I could go burn a tree over the other side of a nearby river to demonstrate, and he agreed. I went over, set a couple trees on fire, and sat back to watch the cool fire mechanics as the flames spread. Then I got hit by an arrow and died. My friend then said, I told you not to burn any of the trees near my castle, man. He had shot me, because he wasn't actually paying attention to what I was saying and he thought I had disregarded his instruction. I had just respawned on my isolated island fortress, and because you drop all your items when you die I had no way of getting back to the main town short of walking. I asked him to at least run a minecart out to me so I could get off the island and he said no and then logged off. I was livid. Not only had he killed me for no reason but now had left me stranded. So I hatched a plan. I walked every step of the way back to our central town. It took me around an hour and a half, and I was seething the entire way. I went and crafted as many flint steel items as I could. Then I went to my friend's castle and I burned down every tree. I stood at each corner of the castle to ensure that 0 trees would be visible from any point within the castle, and then I went and burned a bunch more just in case. My friend, like me, used minecart tracks to get to and from his castle, and at one point the tracks disappeared into a tunnel that you couldn't see into until you were already inside it. My pièce de résistance of petty revenge was when I built a lava pit in the tunnel so if you were on a minecart going full speed you would fall in and die, and all your items would get burnt up and destroyed. Satisfied, I logged off. It was like 2 AM at this point, so I was pretty exhausted. The next day when I logged in, this particular friend wasn't online but the others from the server were there. They told me what had happened. My friend, having logged in and seen the devastation I had caused to his trees, was furious. He jumped in a minecart to head back to the central town so he could go and blow up my fortress. He didn't know about the lava pit though, so he fell right into it wearing all of his best gear, carrying all of his best items and resources, and he lost everything. He was screaming, I'm told, for quite a while, just cursing my name and shouting incoherently to the great amusement of our other friends. We didn't talk much for a few days after that, but when I finally explained my side of events he realized he was in the wrong for killing my character in the first place. I admitted that my response was an overreaction too, and we went back to being friends. We didn't play Minecraft after that though. You may have been reading this story and shaking your head and thinking to yourself, wow, these kids take Minecraft pretty seriously. Yeah, the most embarrassing part of this story is that we were like 25 years old when this happened. Story 38. Me and 3 friends were playing Monopoly while drinking. My friend's GF was winning and rubbing it in his face. At one point he screamed at her, flipped the Monopoly board, all the pieces went flying and straight up left the apartment. We were left speechless until we burst out laughing. There's a good chance he's reading this too. Story 39. D&D. So my friend was DMing a campaign and I was a consistent player. My character had a minor crush, stupid teenage love with a character whose best definition as morally gray. Another person, who didn't like me in real life, would guest star as an edgelord fighter with 2 katanas. He made it his mission to kill my character's crush. At one point, There was a large brawl and my character witnessed him strike my crush. I casted Thunderwave with a low DC, but he somehow failed and fell off the roof of the house. He wound up going unconscious from the spell, and took falling damage which led to him failing his first save. When he rolled for his second, he got a 1 and critical failed, which counts as 2 fails, 3 failed saves and you dead. He starts this loud unintelligible screeching, saying I had no reason to do that, I had it out for him, everything was my fault. He spent hours on that character, he was a huge plot point, ad infinitum. My friend, the DM, asked me about my motivation for striking an ally, and I explained that my character had feelings for his childhood friend and trusted her more than the ally of a group of mercenaries that he didn't trust in the first place. Seeing him strike his friend would be ample reason to attack. Also, my character wouldn't have any idea how close he was to death without metagaming, something my friend was a stickler about. In the end, his character stayed dead and my character had to work out a deal to earn the trust of the mercs. He wasn't invited back to play. Story 40 Destiny 2 guy was super pissed we couldn't complete an encounter in the main raid. And I don't mean frustrated, I mean actually pissed off, just got fired because of someone else's up pissed off. I could actually hear him punching the wall every time we wiped and he would yell and scream at us, me specifically. Not because I was causing it to wipe, BTW. Because his taking the game so seriously was incredibly hilarious to me, so I kept laughing when we'd wipe. Story 41 have a friend who would get pissed and rage quit if called out on performing actions or targeting people specifically out of spite or because they had some sort of bias. Like, I know I can be a lil talking about rules in a game, but like, I'm not gonna scoop all my cards up and run away because of it. Also, being able to talk about the rules in a meta way is important to the health of the game and the playgroup IMO. Story 42 me 30-something, pregnant female who is babysitting a little boy, him an 8-year-old boy who just got Madden for Christmas. He must have wanted to show off because he asked me to play and told me all about how his touch football team plays. It was fine until he started talking smack. Big smack, about me being a don't-know sports dummy, who was prob a cheerleading girl. Oh no, you don't know me, you don't know that I played Madden for all of middle school. I demolished him now, I played fair, never trash-talked and didn't rub it in, but he still had to take a break to his room to get something, but I heard him crying. Poor guy, I suggested that we play something else and got him back in good spirits. He came back out and suggested we play another game. Had I ever heard of GoldenEye? Story 43 not really crazy, but my friend was once playing Risk. I suppose it was a particularly long game and he got bored, so he shouted AIDS and took his arm and wiped out the entire board. No one plays with him anymore. Story 44 an old friend of mine once told me how he had a character that had a strong sense of smell and it was useful as all when hustling up money in the early game, but as soon as he hit his first magical creature it all went south. He got chronic gas and it dazed him to the point of mental exhaustion and he had to sleep a lot. He lost his ability to sniff out bad guys' money, steal, which meant there was a big mob ahead and his gas gave away his position a lot. Villages didn't want him in town unless he paid double. It was also hard for him to bargain because he pissed off store owners with his stench. Further down the line he got to a boss fight which was amazing to me, and the boss had a sleep roll he had to pass every time he finished a combat roll against him. He had to roll above a 18 on a 20-sided die. He did it, but the mental exhaustion timer had hit and he got assassinated. GM added a little salt to the wound by saying he released death farts. I have always wanted to play D&D since I heard how wild it gets, but if anyone in my area even plays it like that. Story 45 more like metagame I guess, but I think it counts. I run a clan in Warframe, few hundred people, about 20 to 30 active members. We're a good group, but new people never join the Discord with all the rules listed, so I end up with issues. One that sticks out is a low-rank player losing his when we wouldn't buy the genuinely worthless stuff he was selling. I mean it when I say useless. We all just got the exact same helmet alert as him. We all have it. Proceeds to explain how I'm an idiot who wants to put down a new player, how my clan is unhelpful because we directed him to Google a few times for meta farming stuff, after he pretty much ignored that I got a very serious PM about how I should be careful because he might leave the clan. Funny thing, if he had read my rules, he would know that Rule 4 is threatening to leave gets you an instant ban. I tell him this, next thing I know the 11 years old insults are launched and he's banned. Felt so damn good to hit that button. Story 46 I'm thinking this qualifies as crazy. Although it wasn't for something in-game, I DM DD campaigns quite often, and my campaigns run the extremes, either I'm DMing for kids young adults who are learning, or I run epic campaigns for veteran players. This happened during the latter. So we have our core group, me DM, 2 women, and 3 men who have all played for many years. One night one of the guys tells me, hey, can my friend play? He's got lots of experience and is a cool dude. Paraphrasing here, me, trusting my players, gladly invite him. I get him set up with a pre-made character early in the day. Did this since we were mid-campaign, nothing super min-maxed, but no pushover either. I'm generally impressed with the guy's demeanor, knowledge and personality. Fast forward to game time. My normal 5 show up slightly early as usual. New guy shows up right on time. All good so far. As he's walking up to the table, the ladies are standing opposite me across the table with their backs to him. This bag walks up, and with no warning, says something like, oh, we got here and 1 hand each, smacks them both on the, everyone freezes, even the guy that brought him in. After a second one of the girls turns around and smacks him dead in the face. Hard minor chaos erupts. I'm yelling at the dude to get the out of my game and don't come back. The ladies are yelling at him. He's yelling back it was a joke, bro. His buddy who brought him is trying to pull him out of the store, and the poor shop owner is trying to figure out what was going on. Enter someone calls the cops. Popo shows up and figures out what happened, knows she was defending herself from getting assaulted, and gives both the guy and the girl that slapped him a fine. Long story short, she got it dropped by going to court with witnesses. He had to pay his fine and won the honor of being the first person to get a permanent ban from the shop. Guy that introduced him to us ended the friendship with him, and me and him are still friends. TLDR guy slaps 2 girls on the asses, gets smacked in face, fined and banned from store. Story 47. I was GMing a 3rd edition Shadowrun campaign, and Wed invited one of our friends to join who had never played a tabletop RPG before. We gave him a cursory explanation of the game's rules and mechanics, let him pick one of the pre-gen characters I had on hand, and started the session. About an hour into the game he rolls a bunch of dice, slides them into a group and says, "Damn man, next roll I make him using this one, look at all of those 6s, I chuckled and told him that it didn't work that way, and he angrily disagreed. I calmly tried to tell him why he couldn't do things that way and he just got angrier and louder, until he was screaming and cursing and threatening me, at which point a couple of other players stood up and told him to calm down. He screamed at us all to FCK off, then stormed out of the house and started walking home, 10 miles from town. A few weeks later we gave him a second chance, and other than a few small disagreements he was just fine for the rest of the campaign.